Hey, happy hump day. It's Coach Tam, Chief Visionary Officer of 265 Point Total Fitness. And I wanted to just hop on for a few minutes tonight. We had an amazing time at our Strive Experiencing God Bible study. And I don't want you to miss out just because you were unable to join us. So it is my prayer that you will be able to meet us at the Stevens Mill Shopping Center 2 weeks from today on August the 28th. So let me catch you up. Now, of course, there were so many things that we talked about that there's no way that I can summarize all of it in this video. But I do want to hit on a few of the points that came out in our study, again, in hopes that it will be a blessing to you. So we talked about the words command, law, statutes, judgment. And we also talked about how we tend to perceive those words. And I wonder, how do you perceive those words? Well, we all had to admit, we all had to confess that those words typically have a negative connotation. Well, as we studied Experiencing God, and here's the book that we're using by Henry and Richard Blackaby, the authors challenged us to look at these words in a different light, in a different perspective. That instead of seeing them as a desire to control us and to keep us from things, that they are really designed to protect us, right? So in this instance, because God knows all, and we literally can't even see into the next second, there are so many things that we can't take into consideration that he can. So he actually wants to navigate us around the landmines that we don't even see. Right? So our challenge is to trust him, to really see him as the loving father that he is, and know that if he keeps us from something, it is truly in our best interest. And on the flip side, if he puts us in a situation that we did not expect, that too is in our best interest. All right. So we need to see God's commands not as control mechanisms, but as protective devices. Okay. The second piece that we talked about a lot is where we as doers, those of us that are action oriented, results oriented, we want to put things on our to-do list and we want to check them off of our to-do list. The problem is that we can sometimes get ahead of God because we don't take the time to pause and think and ask, what is it that God wants to do? So what can happen is we can end up with a lot of good things on our to-do list that aren't actually God things. So I want to challenge you to think about the things that are on your plate. Sometimes the things that are overwhelming us, stressing us, and frustrating us are doing so because God never intended for us to do them. So are they good things or God things, right? So we are challenged to sometimes not just do something, but to stand there and wait for God to reveal his plan for us, because he, unlike us, actually knows what he is doing. And that kind of leads into the next point. As I shared, sometimes we can end up with so many good things that I've been there, we can crowd out the God things. Like we literally have no time to dedicate to the things of God because we're so consumed with other things. And then we can also get into a place where when we look at what we believe, we know God is calling us to do, it feels overwhelming. It feels like too much. We feel inadequate, incapable of doing it. But the authors reminded us that we can do whatever we need to do with his help. So he's not expecting us to come to the table with everything that we need. He is simply expecting us to rely on our faith in him to get us through. So the author says, hey, when we say what we can't do, we're actually saying more about our faith in God than we are about our own abilities, right? Because if we really believe that God is who he said he was, and that he can do what he said that he can do, then certainly he can work through us. So we must take him at his word and take off the limits. We also need to understand how God works. We confessed in our group that we would love is for God to give us all the details of the plan. We're going to get started now. We're going to be finished in 90 days. Here's going to be the outcome of it. Here's who's going to be involved. This part is going to go really well. This part might be a little bit challenging, but overall it'll be good, right? We kind of want to see exactly what's going to happen before we say yes. but that just isn't the way God works. As a matter of fact, he wants to guide us turn by turn, play by play. So that is an exercise of faith, an exercise of trust to be able to set off in the direction that God calls us to, like Abraham, without the full details. Trusting him to guide us along the way. And that's going to all come back to the relationship that we have with him. So don't expect God to reveal every detail of the plan before you get started. He often reveals it play by play and not all at once. And then the last point that I'll share with you is that we talked about how sometimes we can sell ourselves short because we know that we don't have all the credentials. We know that we sometimes aren't as charismatic as we would like to be, maybe not even as successful as we like to be. And so we think about some of the things that are valued in today's culture that allow us to feel good about ourselves. But what we are learning through experiencing God is that it's not about any of those things. It's not about our status, not about how much money we have. It's not about our credentials. It is about our willingness to surrender to God's plan for our life. So we learned about some amazing servants, some in the Bible, some in recent history, servants like Elijah. And here's what it says is, Elijah had no ability to bring down fire from the sky, but God did. Elijah did not have the strength to overcome 850 hostile idol worshipers, but God did. When God did only something he could do, all the people knew that he was the true God. So God wants to be glorified through our testimony. It's not about us and what we bring to the table. It is simply a matter of us surrendering and allowing him to work through us, allowing ourselves to be a vessel. And one of the participants even said, hey, listen, we can't be used unless we surrender. So don't sell yourself short. God can do anything through you. All you have to do is surrender. So that's a brief recap of what we studied tonight in Experiencing God. When we get together in 2 weeks, just in case you pick up the book, we are going to be in chapter 5, in which we start exploring the 7 realities of experiencing God. This is my favorite piece of the study, and I pray that this recap has blessed you and that we will see you in 2 weeks. God bless.